What is up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys for joining. Tonight, our last night, was a rather pretty good episode, not bad episode of NXT Stand and Deliver. May I just say that I really would like to see WWE put their premium live events on YouTube to showcase more, to make it easy for everyone as fans instead of having to wait for it to come up on Daily Motion or whatnot. So that was really cool. Let's talk about what happened and my thoughts. First off, had a pretty incredible opening tonight. We had Lola Vice, JC Jane, and Kendall Gray in a women's triple threat match for the women's NXT championship. Great entry by JC Jane, highlighting her career and showcasing her time as the NXT champion. A lot of times they do that as a hint that it is time for someone else to carry the torch. And tonight was proven to be that way in that case, because tonight, after an incredible match, pretty good match in triple threat wise, it was Lola Vice who would win the NXT women's championship and was congratulated and had a little twerk fest with Sexy Red, which I'm sure turned Booker T on. But if I'm Booker T, I behave myself because Charmel, I'm sure, was around. Sadly, the same luck cannot be had for people who were going up against the Vanity Project. The Vanity Project managed to retain their NXT Tag Team Championships. They faced off last night against the Los Americanos. Many believe Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate are those guys. I wish they would be themselves because Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne sell pretty well to me, especially being the fact that I was a bit of a fan of the classic days of WWE NXT UK when they fought each other. They even fought against Walter, now known as Gunter, in some 5-star classics. That's what, and I believe that's where the money is in their original name. And that's just me. We saw Zarya and Sol Roca have an incredible match. It took not one, not two, but three Soul Snatchers to win this match for Sol Roca. Not to mention, Sol Roca had to survive an F5. Now, Stand and Deliver is one of the few times where you will see wrestlers kick out of finishing moves that usually people stay down to because of the time period it is. And this was one of those nights, and that was one of those matches. But Zarya and Sol Roca had a pretty nice match. I'm going to be honest with you. Johnny Gargano and Miles Bourne was a pretty nice match. It was a pretty solid match to me. They brought out their best moves. Now, for a second, I thought that they were going to completely go heel. Technically, they kind of are on SmackDown, but yes, they are heel on SmackDown technically. But Candice LeRae interfered to help Johnny Gargano, and Johnny held the tights, which was supposed to be scriptingly illegal, but that didn't stop Miles Bourne from fighting back. Both men continued to give their best, and it was Miles Bourne in the end that would win this match. And to be quite honest with you, I thought that match was pretty good. Also, excuse me, not too bad of a match was Blake Monroe versus Tatum Paxley. Much respect to Tatum Paxley for coming back from having the back of her head smashed into the exposed turnbuckle, then takes one of the DDTs, which I believe is Blake Monroe's finisher, comes back and does her own graveyard finishing move, and wins the match and retains the NXT North American Championship and now has it in her possession because Blake had it in hers and she wasn't the champion. Mind games like what CM Punk did to The Rock in New Orleans Elimination Chamber 2013. Now, the main event, the Fatal 4-Way match between Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Ricky Saint was awesome to me. That Fatal 4 match was great. First off, there was dissension between Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, which we expected. And that imploded eventually as we expected it would. But the performance, much respect to Joe Hendry, but the performance of Tony D'Angelo in this match was incredible. The double spear to Ricky and Ethan through the announce table was great. I really enjoyed that moment. Joe Hendry was very resilient for taking all of those spears. He went for a fall from grace, which is technically a choke slam, a show-stopping like choke slam, but it wasn't enough because Tony D'Angelo came back, and just like one of the new supporters, Wrestling Supreme, said, it really is Tony D'Angelo's time because, as predicted, I've said that either I thought Tony or Joe Hendry would retain. But tonight, the second half of my prediction was correct. Or should I say last night, my prediction was proven correct because Tony D'Angelo is the new NXT World Champion. And if I'm being honest, I would like to see Joe Hendry and Tony D'Angelo continue to do their own feud. I know that Joe Hendry is destined for the WWE's main roster being SmackDown or Raw. However, I would like to see Tony D'Angelo and Joe Hendry have their own one-on-one story because I truly believe there is something to be done there, and I believe that can really entertain the crowd, in my personal opinion. So I hope this is not over between those two yet. But let me know in the comments below what you thought about tonight's episode or last night's episode of NXT Stand and Deliver. Again, I'm glad it was on YouTube. I'm glad that they put their premium live there. I would like to see WWE put some premium lives on YouTube more, but that's too much to ask. And by the way, I will say this. Let me talk about, speaking of things to pay for. The other night, Pat McAfee was revealed to be the special person who was calling Randy Orton. Let's be honest, we all were expecting someone else. But I will give credit where credit is due because Pat McAfee did cut a good promo. And he asked the question, why do we have tickets still on sale when Randy Orton is still active? I'll tell you why. Because the ticket prices are too goddamn expensive. That is why. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below about last night's NXT Stand and Deliver. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. I hope Joe and Tony continue their own feud. But until next time, be safe, everyone, and happy Resurrection Day.